Hi, everybody. My name is Kim, and I am here with Zsuzsi, Taris, Shira, and Lee. We are five friends, speakers, and professionals from different cultures, backgrounds, and age groups coming together to offer healing and inspiration. We want you, our audience, to get to know each of us a little better through our struggles, triumphs, and the lesson that we learned along the way. Our own Zsuzsi is going to take us through her journey and how her experiences have caused her to completely reevaluate and reframe what success means to her. So Zsuzsi, since childhood is where our journey begins, I would love for you to start us off telling us a bit about yours.
Thanks, Kim. Welcome, everybody. Yes, childhood is definitely something that helped shape my journey and the road I've traveled. So obviously I have a unique name. It's Hungarian. It's short for Zsuzsanna. And my parents are both born and raised in Hungary. I was born here in the United States. But when I was young, I traveled back and forth between Hungary and Chicago, where I grew up. And we permanently settled in the United States when I was around 10 years old. And I was actually really excited to be here. My parents put me into a very affluent private school on the south side of Chicago. And to say the least, I didn't really fit in. I was from a very different culture than everybody else had grown up in, and I didn't really know anything about pop culture because Hungary was really behind in that sense. So I had a lot of trouble making friends for the first time in my whole life. And because the school is so academically oriented, I felt very behind in my studies. And, people started asking me at a very early age, what do you want to be when you grow up? And the answer was supposed to be a lawyer or a doctor, because that's what everybody was trained to say from when they were old enough to walk. So I didn't like that at all. And I decided that I wanted to do something different and unique, and that my creativity is what I was going to focus on and hone in on as my skill set. So I decided when I was 13 years old that I was going to be a fashion designer because it was cool and different. And at that time, very few designers were at the forefront. There were very few designers whose names you knew. It's not like today where there's a lot more fashion icons in the mainstream. So I decided that that was where my life was going to go. And then every single thing that I did was to serve that end. I actually ended up going to art school. I studied really hard in high school. I went to art school. I studied fashion design at the Savannah College of Art and Design, and I knew that I was going to move to New York City after I graduated. But I ended up doing an internship the summer before I graduated from college, and I decided this is definitely not the path for me. I didn't enjoy working in an office. I didn't enjoy the culture that I was surrounded with. So it was kind of like a oopsie moment for me. And I finished my senior year, moved to New York City with a sort of like, now what attitude. And I ended up working in retail. I went into merchandising, and that's where I spent about 10 years of my career, just climbing the corporate ladder and working for a few different companies. And I learned a lot in that time, and I enjoyed.
I have a question. Did you regret your career choice after college?
That's a really great question. I think I was too scared to regret it. I just like pushed those icky feelings aside of like, oh shoot, maybe this wasn't the path for me. I was still so gung-ho about living in New York and working in the industry. I just sort of didn't know how at that time, because when I was in college, there was a very straightforward path that was set out for me. the tiers of the corporate ladder were the only possibility that was ever told to us. So I didn't even know what visual merchandising was when I moved to New York City. Like, it had never occurred to me that it's somebody's job to place things in a store and to dress mannequins. I guess I just thought they dressed themselves at night.
Usually, if you don't mind me asking, I'm just curious what your parents thought of this career choice. Like, were they supportive?
Well, both of my parents are very driven people. My mom's a PhD psychologist. My father is a professor of theoretical computer science at a graduate level at the University of Chicago. He's a very, very smart man. And, you know, when people immigrate to the United States, they immigrate with the intention of giving their children a better life, giving them more opportunities than they had. So college was certainly not considered an option for me. And I felt at the time very lucky that I got to choose what career path and what college I went to, but with the underlying understanding that whatever I chose, I should be successful.
So your answer then is yes, as long they were supportive, as long as you were a success in their eyes. Which, what did that mean to them? What does success mean to your parents?
Well, I think that traditionally success is outlined by the following. You go to school, you get a job in a career that you enjoy, you climb up the corporate ladder or whatever ladder that is, always moving forward, always advancing yourself and, you know, making a comfortable living. And then beyond that, it's about, you know, getting married, having children, raising a family. These are the things that parents, because their parents taught them, are the roads to happiness and therefore success. Like, I don't think that success has been defined because it's meant to not make you happy. The idea is that your parents want the best for you. They want you to be content in your life. And this is what they felt would make me content, is to do all of these things and achieve all of these goals.
So was there ever the message that you could go to fashion school, right? And then maybe one day you'll be your own fashion designer, or you'll have your own boutique, or you'll do your own business in the fashion world? Or was it always, you're gonna just climb up the ladder? Because I keep hearing you say the corporate ladder, the corporate ladder.
Yeah, I think for me, initially, it was always the end goal. I mean, you don't normally graduate from college and start your own collection. Um, Even though when I first moved to New York, I moved in with somebody who had graduated from the same school as me. And I saw that she was really struggling with the structure that had been set forth for us. And she decided to start her own collection. Now she, you know, had financial backing from her family. So in that sense, that wasn't something that was available to me. I did still have to have a job and, you know, pay my own way. But I saw for the first time that starting your own business was sort of the ultimate in end goal. So yes, to answer your question, I didn't necessarily see how I was going to get there, but that was to me the end all be all, is being your own boss and owning your own business.
So did you ultimately wind up opening up your own business in fashion?
No, I didn't open my own business in fashion. I did end up deciding that after 10 years of working in the business, I saw that actually the fashion industry was taking a turn, and brick and mortar wasn't really a sustainable model. The internet had really taken over in terms of where people got clothing from. And so I left visual merchandising and the fashion industry behind to start a business with a friend of mine at the time. She was a hairdresser and a makeup artist, and I could see that beauty was, you know, really coming to the forefront and becoming an experience that women were really gravitating towards. So we decided to open a beauty studio in Lower Manhattan. And it was a place for women to come and get their hair and makeup done in a casual setting, a comfortable setting, and a place where they didn't feel pressure to buy. It was really more about creating a place for them to enjoy the process of getting ready and be with fellow women.
Do you feel like you accomplished what you set out to do with that business?
You know, that's a tricky question because I felt like the part of it where women felt good about themselves was certainly accomplished. You know, what I am most proud of when I look back at owning that business was that all of the reviews, every single one from Yelp to Google to Facebook, every one of them was a 5-star review. And every single time the women were expressing how they find the industry of beauty to be very intimidating. And our best clients were women who didn't normally wear makeup, who didn't usually do their hair, and felt very removed from that as a culture. But then, you know, there are times in your life when you are forced to have to get dressed up and be with people and take photos. And so we were there for them in a time that was already sort of anxiety inducing, like going to a wedding or having pictures taken or going to a really important dinner. So we were there for them and made them feel worthy and beautiful. And that is the thing that I'm most proud of when it comes to looking back on that time. And what was really challenging for me is that those reviews did not actually equal being financially successful in business. Whereas I thought that, you know, with these amazing reviews, we would end up being incredibly financially successful. And, you know, I know now that businesses normally take about 5 years to get off the ground. And I didn't really leave that kind of leeway for myself. So I was very hard on myself in terms of the service that we provided. I wanted a level of excellence from myself and from everybody that worked for me. And I think that we got there. So in that sense, it did feel like an accomplishment. On the other hand, you know, I was drowning in debt. So that didn't feel great.
Z, can you share with us in the audience your age, if you don't mind? Just so that we have like an era.
We know.
So I'm 36 years old now. I was 30 years old when I had decided to open my own business. And I actually used to say that you have to be very naive to start a business, because if you had any idea how hard it was, you would never do it.
I say that all the time. If I even knew half of this, oh my God, I would never.
So
Well,
I have a question for you, Zsuzsi. So obviously, you know, this is the part of your journey where you're like, you know, big eyes, you know, so excited, this is happening, got my staff, got my people. So at some point, obviously, because we're talking about your journey, things started to go south. You just started saying you're in debt, whatever. So like, what happened and how did you feel when you felt things starting to unravel? Take us through that a little bit.
Yeah, so the honeymoon phase of owning a business was over. I mean, we had a launch party, like all of these magazine editors came. I was written up all over the place as like the hot new spot in New York City to go get your hair and makeup done. Refinery 29, like all of these things were coming together. And then actually the first thing that really went south was that my first business partner sat me down one day and was like, we don't have enough money. we don't have enough money, and we have this enormous overhead. And I was just kind of like, but you made the projections. Like, what do you mean we don't have enough money? You're the one that projected that we would have enough money. And she was just like, yeah, I think we need to close our doors. And I was like, absolutely not. It's been 8 months. Like, what would everybody think? That was the only thing that was going through my head, is like, what would other people think if I had this huge, insane blowout? Like 200 people came to my opening. Most of them were friends.
Well, how far between it started and like, well, how long was that honeymoon phase that you're telling us about right now?
So it's like 8 months into owning the business, she sat me down and had this conversation with me, and I just rejected it. That was like not the reality that I wanted to live in. And I hated having that confrontation with her, because I just worked my butt off to get this thing open, between loans and signing the lease. And like, I personally built the space out with my own hands.
Wow.
Like, I wasn't about to give that up. I wasn't about to walk away from that. And so we ended up borrowing more money and, sort of scraping through that first winter of being open. And then finally, she just said to me, I don't think this is going to work. And I said, I respectfully disagree. And if you want, you can leave. And she did. And
Oh my God, stop.
that was heartbreaking for me. I felt like this is how it always went. Like, I would have these friendships that were so tight and so bonded and so important to me. And I felt like she was not just walking away from the business, she was walking away from me personally. And so, of course, I was like, just like shoving it all down and trying my best to like keep up a brave face and keep it going. And we had one woman working for us who was super, super dedicated to the brand and just loved everything we were doing. And when she found out that my business partner was walking away, she said, well, I believe in this brand. If you think that you can keep this place open, I would love to be your partner. And so like within a week, I got what is called a business divorce. We got an agreement, and it was devastating, but it's like I didn't even have time to process it, because I was right back into like hustle mode of like, just get this done. I got another couple of investors to invest in the business, through my brother, who was always super supportive of me. And I look back on that and I'm actually not sure if I've still processed what happened, because again, I just was like, I can't let anybody see me fail. I can't let anybody see me break a sweat over any of this. So like, I was just like, everything's fine. Don't look behind the curtain.
With this new business partner, though, were they bringing in more financial backing? And is that what allowed you to continue?
No. So that was actually later down the line, sort of a point of contention. But I think that I thought that I just couldn't do it alone. I didn't want to do it alone. I didn't trust myself. It wasn't my industry, which, by the way, a big lesson for me is don't start a business in an industry you don't know. It's just not an advisable thing to do. Either you become a part of that industry or just don't do it. Because I had no idea what it took to run a salon until I owned one.
Zsuzsi, I can sort of feel right now in my heart where this is going. And it's sparking so many more questions. So I think this is actually a really great place to wrap. But don't worry, because we are going to be back with a part 2. And you know, this conversation is going to continue. And if you like our videos, please subscribe to our channel, and be sure to let us know if you have any topic requests or questions by commenting below. And we'll see you very soon. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, everybody.
See you soon.
you.